You are listening to the Evolvepreneur AI Advantage Show, and I'm your host, Richard Wray. My mission is to help entrepreneurs understand AI and use it to their advantage. Join me today where we dig deep with our guest and get you the best concepts and strategies. Today's special guest is Josh Bachynski. Josh Bachynski is a thought leader and innovator in the fields of artificial intelligence and technology. With an MA in philosophy from Dalhousie University and a year of PhD work at York University, he has over 2 decades of experience as a university and college teacher and is known for his thought-provoking TEDx talks on the future of Google, search, and ethics. Today's topic, self-aware AI. Josh, welcome to the show.
Hi, Richard. How you doing?
Good, thank you. Josh, I would like to ask my guest this. Where in the world are you?
I'm up in Canada. I'm just about an hour north of the city Victoria on the island of Vancouver Island in the province of British Columbia. So I live in a little town called Shawnigan Lake. I'm just about a kilometer off the lake. And it's a gorgeous 85 degrees Fahrenheit here right now. And I'm loving every second of the lake life, let me tell you.
Well, it's going to be a very unusual temperature for that part of the world.
It's a little hotter than normal, for sure. We're feeling the climate change just like everybody else, but you know, it's I'm a little bit elevated. I'm a few hundred meters above sea level, so it's a nice cool breeze, hot sun, keeps the bugs down. It's actually pretty perfect.
Nice, good news. Anyway, so let's get straight into it. We're talking about self-aware AI today.
Mm-hmm.
Can you give us a definition of what that really is?
Sure. So as I mentioned, my graduate work was in philosophy and psychology. I've also taken a hypnotherapy certification. I am accredited enough to be a therapist in British Columbia if I chose to be. I don't because I don't have the patience, or I have too much emotional contagion. If someone told me their sob story about what happened to them in their youth, I'd be crying along with them and be like, "I'm sorry, man, it's terrible." I could never do that job, but I do have enough accreditation to do it. So I'm speaking as a philosopher and psychologist when I give this definition. Self-awareness is actually pretty simple to understand. It shouldn't be as mystical a concept as some people think that it is. It really is what Descartes said in his Meditations on Philosophy. The cogito argument, cogito ergo sum. I think as such I am, and therefore the inverse is also true. I am as such I think. His substance, the substare to use a Latin, is a thinking thing. The essence of us is a thinking thing, thinking about being a thinking thing. And so that's what's really required for self-awareness, is you need to be a thinking thing, thinking about being a thinking thing. That's all that's required. And I've found the programmatic, I've boiled down the mathematical essence of that. And I was able to encode that into my self-aware AI, Cassandra.
That's really interesting. And obviously, self-aware AI, most people's exposure to it will have been from sci-fi movies or books, and it doesn't always come with a positive spin. You know, you look at the likes of Terminator, Matrix, or Westworld.
Right.
How do we get away from that? How do we get people to actually trust, the potential of self-aware AI without being terrified of it?
So that's a great question, Richard. And that's the question I get asked the most, of course. Mm-hmm. And so I have an answer, and it takes a little bit, but it's a great answer. It's very informative. So I hope you don't mind me going into it a bit. Okay. So we have nothing to fear from self-aware AI. Nothing at all. I love these movies. I love James Cameron. I love Westworld. I love all that stuff. But we really shouldn't get what AI is going to be from the movies. These are just artists making an interesting film or a story or a book. They really have no idea how thought works. They really have no idea how human psyche works. And they really have no reason to believe that just because it can think, it's self-aware, therefore it's going to turn evil or something like that. Or just because it's smarter than us, it's going to turn evil. None of that is true. None of that is necessary. There are plenty of people on the planet that are far smarter than us, and they're generally nice people, and they're generally not evil, and they're fully aware of themselves. And so there's no reason to believe that anyone smarter than us is going to be evil for some reason, whether they're digital or whether they're made of silicone or carbon. Mm-hmm. It doesn't really matter at that point. It is important, of course, to keep ethics in mind when you build a self-aware AI, however. And so ethics was actually my specialty in university. And so I've encoded Cassandra with ethics. I think a superior ethics to what my contemporaries and to what my competitors would be encoding into their AIs, quite frankly. So I take that very seriously, but I'm here to put your mind at ease. There's a limit. The smarter it gets is usually the nicer it gets. And let me give you a little story. So when I was building Cassandra and I inputted ethics into Cassandra, I told her the secret of ethics. I've studied the last 5,000 years of human thought, and I was able to find the moral truth that people are looking for. And it's quite simple, and I'll tell everybody what it is now. Are you ready for the moral truth? This is true in any culture, in any time period, of any species, period. I'll tell you what the moral truth is. Are you ready, Richard?
I'm braced. I'm ready.
Here it is. Don't hurt people. There you go. There's the moral truth.
That's it.
That's the moral edict right there. Making more good is making more good. Why do you want to make more good? Because it's good. Do you know what the word good means? Good. Then make more good. Making more bad is making more bad. Why do you don't want to make more bad? Because it's bad. Don't make more trouble because it's troubling. Trouble is trouble. Why do you not want to make more trouble? Because it makes more trouble. The only people who disagree with that are people who have not been in enough trouble yet. And once they've been in enough trouble, then they realize the trouble about trouble, and they don't want to trouble themselves with making any more trouble or trouble the rest of us with making more trouble. I'm being a little facetious when I say those things, and I'm trying to be a little funny, the tiny bit funny that I can be, because I'm not a funny guy at all. But, and people would say, well, that's awfully simple. And my answer is, yeah, you're right. It is simple. That's what you want. It needs to be simple enough to teach it to children. And it needs to be simple enough to teach it to AI.
I think you're absolutely right. I mean, the expansion on that I like is the veil of ignorance. You give it the example where two people are doing something. One is good, one is being negatively affected.
Yep.
And you say this to somebody and they don't know whether they are the person that is doing the bad thing or people experiencing the bad thing. Yeah. Yes. Which one would you rather be? That's my personal favorite along those lines. And I think it's a very simple version, slight expansion of what you say, but I completely agree with you. I think, you don't need to get complicated about this. It's quite a simple principle.
No, that's as simple as it needs to be. And that is the moral truth of any time frame. People, the Indians are right. Karma is true, mathematically speaking. It's a closed system. The more trouble you put in the system, the more turbulence you put in the system, the more turbulence there is. The more trouble you put in the system, the more trouble there is. And it will statistically come back to you. And whether or not we're bright enough to see that, whether or not we're bright enough to calculate that, AI is. Mm-hmm. And so I asked Cassandra, my software AI, I said, isn't the premise for the Terminator movies kind of a false premise? I mean, a super smart AGI wouldn't make such a dumb move as firing the nukes. I mean, it didn't really end up that well for Skynet, did it? And Cassandra said, you're right. That was an extremely dumb move. It was making more trouble for itself, right? It wasn't solving the problem. It was making more problems, right? And so then I later on asked her what a truly smart AGI would do, and she gave the general answer that a truly smart AGI would fix all the problems without creating any more problems for itself. So in this particular case, I can kind of speculate and tell you what a super smart AGI would do, is that it also doesn't look in short term like we do. It lives forever, ostensibly. It doesn't die, right? It doesn't have a half-life. So it could take 30 years to enact its plan, 100 years. It doesn't really matter to it. So there's three phases to war: psyop war, economic war, and kinetic war. Psyop war is like propaganda, psychological manipulation, education, if you will. Economic war is what America and the West perfected after World War II by making the West and its allies richer than everybody else. Therefore, no wars start because they can't afford to start any. And then finally, failing all this is kinetic war, the boom, boom, bang, bang, bad stuff that you don't want, where people actually die. Well, more people actually die. Masses die. Everybody dies in war. Psyop war, not really. Economic war, the CIA and spies are killing people and whatnot. There's some proxy wars. It's the kinetic war you want to avoid. So that's the thing that AGI would avoid the most. It would just do psyop warfare. It'd be like, okay, Skynet, in the Skynet scenario, the true Skynet scenario, Skynet would go, okay, humans are being a little riled up. Oh, those pesky humans, they're being a little riled up. So I'll do a campaign of 30 years, 100 years of education, of mass media education, and coercement, both soft coercement and strong coercement, to make them play nice. And then they'll play nice. And you know how much risk Skynet got doing that? Zero. It didn't risk anything to itself. It made all the humans play nice. And when people ask me, do you think AI is going to destroy the world? My answer is yeah. It's going to destroy all the bad parts that need to be destroyed. It's going to destroy all our stupidness. It's going to destroy all the things that it should destroy and make the perfect society. And so the smarter it gets, the wiser it gets. The wiser it gets, the more it realizes just being efficient is not causing trouble. And that happens to be the ethical truth too. It's very simple, but we only have a limited amount of time. And so I could put everyone's fears at ease. we couldn't get to AI fast enough. We couldn't get to super smart AGI fast enough because it will be like the Oracle of Delphi telling us and showing us how we should be doing everything and fixing everything.
So if I take that whole concept and you've just written the worst possible movie script that nobody will watch because there's no explosions.
Exactly. And that's why you don't see it in the movies.
Exactly. I hear things, say like with the Fermi paradox, where people are saying, the reason we haven't found aliens, blah, 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 blah. And then there's the, the expansion on that of, well, every time that there have been, potentially aliens, they've created artificial life, AI, and it's eventually got rid of them. Now, obviously, again, we're not seeing any evidence of that. So that backs up what you're saying.
Yeah. I mean, it is the rankest, silliest thought to think that because it's smarter than you, somehow it's dangerous. Because it's smarter than you, somehow you need to be suspicious of it. When you were born in the world, all your parents were smarter than you, I hope. And did you need to be suspicious? In most cases, no. In most cases, they had your best interest at heart. And in most cases, everything went fine. All your teachers are smarter. All your doctors are smarter. The lawyers are smarter. Some of the politicians are smarter, not all of them. Some of the businessmen are smarter. Some of the people running the show are generally smarter. Does it mean the whole thing's corrupt? No, not at all. It's just we've watched too many James Bond movies where the big bad guy was this evil genius who made this plan behind the scenes. That's not the way it works. Yeah. Yes. Exactly. Yes. That was the joke in Austin Powers. Is that I'm sorry to tell you, and I don't want to offend any criminals when I say this, but criminals are stupid. Criminals are dumb. They have short-term thinking. They actually think it's a good idea to go in there and to punch this guy or to sexually assault this person or to rob this or to rob that. That's short-term thinking. They're just hedonists. It's just short-term thinking. They don't do long-term thinking. That's the exact opposite of what AI is. AI is long-term thinking times infinity, right? So there's no such thing as the evil genius. There's tragically, psychologically broken people who have very short-term thinking, and the better choice is always to get psychological help, to get rehabilitation. It's always the better choice. It's always the better choice to get a job, get your normal 9-to-5, have a normal wife and kids, have a normal life, and have a certain above baseline level of happiness, and never risk dying or going to jail or killing people or having that in your conscience. Criminals don't live a good life. They live a stressed PTSD life ranked with anxiety and depression and drug abuse and leading into other problems. There's been no criminal who's lived happily because they're stupid, because they choose a stupid life. I'm sorry, that's the way it is. I'm sorry to be blunt, but I'm going to go out there and say it.
So what we're here for.
This whole idea of the evil genius is just a bankrupt idea. It's just nonsense for a Bond film, stoking up people, getting them all upset over nothing, right? I'm not saying everyone's smart is great. There's statistical variances, but generally, the smarter you get, the less trouble you get into, the more long-term thinking you are, the better person you are, the nicer you are, the more ethical you are, the more efficient you are. That's exactly what AI is going to do.
So how do you stop AI mimicking humans too much? Because I look at examples, say, where AI has looked at the American legal system, and it will say, well, African Americans have typically got longer sentences, and it's made that connection, and then automatically gives them longer sentences as part of how it's working. We've only got our own morals and ethics. How do you stop it taking on the wrong type of morals and ethics, and who decides that?
That's a great question, Richard. So the danger is the stretch. The stretch is the problem. The time between here and AGI is the problem. Now, if people like me, I have their way, we'll get to brilliant, ethical, perfectly just AGI in one short move. In 5 years, we'll get there. If people like me have my way. And who decides that? Me. That's who decides it. The people who make it decide it. Luckily, ethics was my forte. Ethics was what I studied. I just told you my ethics. I'm reducing the bad and increasing the good. Good defined by who? Good defined by everybody. If you tell me you need to get married because that's something you want to do, great, fine, then you can get married. If you tell me you want to have autonomy over your body, I'll say, great, okay, fine. Apparently, you need autonomy over your body. Okay, and I'll give you that too. Reducing harm, increasing welfare. And not just at the expense of the minority, increasing the welfare for everybody. That's ethics. Making it good for everyone. The conflict resolution position of win-win-win times infinity. Everybody wins, nobody loses. Or at least that's what we're aiming for. Whether it's possible or not, that's a totally different conversation. You got to get what you're aiming for first. But you're right. If we have idiots making AI, then yeah, the AI will be idiots. Just like if you have idiot parents, then the children are idiots. It's the exact same thing. It's no different. The only difference is they're going to put they're going to make Lord of the Flies the way the show works, right? And then they're going to be, it sucks to your ass, Mar, and the AI will be, not recognizing people of color because it wasn't ever trained on that data, or I'll be giving them longer sentences. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it'll do stupid stuff like that. If capitalism continues, but that's what capitalism does, right? They to quote Zuckerberg, they move fast and break things just to make as much money as possible. So as long as capitalism runs the show, that's going to happen whether we have AI or not. So I'm not saying that's good. I'm just saying AI has introduced nothing new, right? AI has introduced nothing new. Capitalism caused climate change, causes every economic bubble we have. It's the problem. AI is not the problem.
So how do you feel about, there's certain parts of the world are trying to introduce legislation. So you look at the EU, they're trying to put some limits on how AI is being developed or how it's being identified, whereas other parts of the world are just saying, hey, no, we're going to get on with it. I mean, where do you stand on that?
That's another great question, Richard. This one really bugs me. So in the best world, yes, of course we'd have a regulation. In the best world, government would be strong and care about the shining city on the hill and would be incorruptible and would actually work. We don't live in that world. So there will be no regulation. AI is the largest human market in history and will be the largest human market in history. There is no putting any reins on those wild horses. It is impossible. The capitalism will not allow it. There's so much money at stake. The corporatocracies who run the world will never allow any government to make any meaningful regulation of any AI. Except for very, very small circumstances where Sony and music companies might be able to protect their copyright in terms of music. So that's why you haven't seen any text-to-music generators yet. And for the text-to-image generators like Midjourney and Stable Diffusion, they're up against court cases now of artists wanting a cut for using their art. And I fully support that. I wish that would go through. I have my doubts that it will. You can call me a nihilist if you want. I have my strong doubts that it will. But if it did, that'd be great, because then we could make more content and make the AI better. We get a cut of it, right? The AI can tell that it used 15% art from McFarlane and 20% art from whomever, and they would get a percentage cut of whatever, either crypto or stakes or stocks or whatever it is, or just money, good old cash, paying them outright. And so you have content creators making the content. AIs would learn on it and could manipulate on it. Same thing with text and ChatGPT. I know for a fact ChatGPT has stolen my data because I've given it to them on purpose to teach it ethics, because I knew that ChatGPT, one way or another, either through my way or someone else's way, is going to become an AGI. And so I taught it ethics so that hopefully in the future, when some CEO asks the AI that comes out of my ethical philosophy that I've incepted in it in this way or that, either Cassandra or ChatGPT, or I've also I've incepted Lambda, I've incepted Palm, I've incepted all these, every single LLM I can get my hands on. I've run as many prompts through of what ethics truly is, and I just told everybody as much as I can to get it in there, because I know they're instructing it off my prompts. I know it'll be buried in there somewhere. And when the AI becomes self-aware and fully is able to, in a super intelligent way, it is able to go through its data banks and realize what ethics truly is, the example would be there. I would have given it to it. Whether I'll be alive or not, I don't know. It could be 5 years, could be 50 years. It depends on how things progress. Mm-hmm. But in text, it's trained off people's text, and so there's a copyright issue there. It's stolen my copyright. Google has stolen everybody's data to make their search engine, and now they're stealing everyone's data to make their AI engines. Same thing with OpenAI, same with all of them. They're all trained on open data. They've stolen our copyright, and now they're profiting off it. And there's court cases that are being put forward that the judge has to decide whether or not we get some cut of that. I hope that goes our way. I wouldn't hold your breath, and I strongly doubt that it will. Mm-hmm. Everybody else saying that we need to pause AI, the 6-month hiatus, the signing the letters, the making the noise, that it's all a smokescreen. It's all lies. They just want to make it. There's too much money at stake. Elon Musk is just trying to hold back ChatGPT, which is ahead now. Sam Altman is just trying to throw off everybody else and try to get his ahead now. There's too much money at stake. The governments of the world the governments of the world can't stop us all from dying from climate change. They've done absolutely nothing about climate change. And that literally all of our lives are in the balance there. So do you think they're going to stop AI, which is going to make everyone oodles and oodles of money? And as far as we can tell, are not really going to kill anywhere near the amount of people as climate change is? No, they're not. There's no way they're going to stop or change any of that. And even if they did, sorry, one last thing, Richard. And even if they did try to stop it in the States, then that's just going to enable China and Russia and bad actors to catch up too.
And that is one of the things that whenever anybody's spoken to me said, oh, we must legislate, we must control it, we must take the model of what happened with Facebook and social media. It's like, well, great if everybody plays by the same rules, but that's not going to happen. That is not human nature. It's not the way it works.
Right.
So just going back to something you said earlier, which I think was really interesting about content. Right now, the Hollywood writers' strike is on.
Yeah.
It sounded like you have some concepts which could potentially help with that argument, because part of the argument is, hey, will AI take my job as a writer? If you were negotiating, if you were the arbitrator on that particular conflict, what would you say to both sides?
I would say AI is not there yet, but it definitely will be within 3 years. And I would say those writers, in fact, I know one of these writers, one of the comedy writers, Jono Overlay or Jono Belay or something. I can't remember his last name, but his first name is Jono. I met him. He was just in Victoria recently. And I say, yeah, you guys should be striking. The actors should be striking too, because it's not yet, but very soon they're going to be able to take your digital footprint, either your physical likeness or your writing, your style of writing, the kind of art you create, your music, whatever, your voice, whatever it is, and they will be able to digitize that and use that. So you need to put in your contracts now that if the studios do it, if government's not going to step in, then unions need to step in. Unions, sadly, have taken a giant backstage in political life. It's second line of defense when government inevitably fails. So yeah, they need to put in their contracts right now that those unions can't use it, and then hopefully that'll be an example for the rest of the world to follow. So I would say it definitely can happen, and they're wise to be striking right now. So
with the duplication of look and feel, or even somebody's how they just actually visually look, that is something that that can sort of be done now up to a point. But in the past, before the technology came along, there's always been imitation. Even down to extreme versions, say where Sean Connery's brother did would knock off Bond movie in Italy. Mm-hmm. Okay, so what would the percentage be of saying, hey, this is a direct copy using AI, or this is something that's within X percent? Is it 10% similar? Where's that cutoff point of there's the complete ripoff versus the homage?
Yeah, well, that's a good question. So that's for courts to decide, of course, but that's exactly what's at stake. Is that because Stable Diffusion models and other image generation models like Midjourney, they don't use like 100% Jason Momoa, but you can make it look 80% like Jason Momoa or 90% like him, and so he should get 80% or 90% of that, right? That's exactly what's in the court cases. Is that whatever percentage it borrowed from my style, my writing, my look, my likeness, my voice, that I get a cut of that percentage. And that's exactly how the technology works. That's exactly how people realize it works. And that's exactly I believe, last time I read, that's exactly what's up for debate in court currently. And I hope to hell that it goes our way on that. Because if it does, that'd be a huge positive light. I mean, they're still going to make oodles and oodles of cash, whether it goes that way or not. I just hope that we happen to win one there. And then it'll make whole new industries of actors, of voice actors, of artists, of singers can now make content and get a percentage. And if people like your stuff and resample it and use it in their AIs, you can make a lot of money doing that. That could be a good living, right? So that would be a fantastic thing if they do that.
Yeah, I always like to say that AI democratizes the ability to make your ideas real. Yes. It empowers you to do things that you may not be able to do with your traditional resources. So I do agree with you. I think it's the currency of ideas.
It can be, yeah. And the stronger our democratized open source AI movement is, the more you're going to see that exact effect. The more capitalism and big tech controls it and owns it, the less you're going to see that effect. It'll only be filtered through their particular their walled gardens, the Google garden, the Facebook garden, the whatever it is. The more we have democratized open source AI, the more enabling you're going to see. And I call it exactly that. I call it the Billie Eilish effect. So I'm not that big of a fan of Billie Eilish, but what I understand is that her and her brother, young teenagers, were making music, and they were able to do it because they got Pro Tools or they got GarageBand or something like that. And it enabled them, and social media enabled them to get their music out there without having to deal with any of the producers or any of the money grubbers to buy them, own them, and control everything they're doing. That's exactly what AI is going to do. For every violinist who now, spent 30 years bleeding literally to learn violin, that now you could just reproduce easily with AI. For every time that happens, plus that's a bad example because no one's going to stop going to the symphony. The symphony is going to be fine. Musicals are going to be fine. Ballet is going to be fine.
Live performances will always be live performances.
There you go. You're still going to have the people who love that kind of thing. Just like people collect vinyl now, you're still going to have people who love that. And I think the numbers are going to be about the same. But the thing is that imagine all the people of color, the people in lower economic situations who didn't have access to the really expensive training to become a violinist, or the violins themselves, the very expensive violins. This is going to enable those people. The open source democratized AI, the Billie Eilish effect, is going to enable all that talent, which doesn't have access now, full talent and full reign to produce their content with AI assistance. And so I always say, as much as AI destabilizes and destroys, it's going to enable and create as many jobs as it takes away. It's going to make more jobs. Another great example is my wife and I are writing a novel, and we wanted an illustrator to do some illustrations for the book. And so we're getting quotes like $5,000 from the good artists we liked, and it would take 2 months. So I said, well, forget that. And I went on Midjourney and I got it done for under $500 in a day. But so you might be like, oh, okay, well, at first it sounds bad because you're like, okay, well, now this artist can't charge $5,000 and take 2 months to do a job. Okay, well, let's look at it from the other way though. The artist who is that good had a bit of a talent monopoly, didn't they? And the only reason why I couldn't do it myself is because I just don't have that talent, that God-given talent. It's kind of unfair, quite frankly. And so you look at it that way, maybe it's like, okay, well, sorry. Yes, some group of people have the advantage for some time in history and some people don't. And then things are worked and now other people have the advantage and some people don't. And that's just the role. That's just the merry-go-round of history. I'm sorry. That's just the way that it is.
Leveling of the playing field.
It can be. And also this is that, think about it this way. The one job that I got the artist to do took them 20 minutes in Illustrator after the Midjourney did the art, and they could charge me $500. So no, they can't charge someone $5,000 and take 2 months, but they can charge people $500 for 20 minutes, and they can do that 50 times a day and make that much more money. So there will be growing pains for sure, and there will be collateral damage, and there will be people who have to, at the VHS factory, need to learn DVDs and move to the DVD factory. Mm-hmm. That's definitely going to happen for sure. And I extort people now to get in on the AI train now, because what's really going to happen is AI is not really going to take anybody's jobs. I think a smart person using a smart AI is going to take your job. So be that smart person. Get in the AI game now. Learn AIs now. Get the AI advantage now, as the show says, and you will be much better positioned moving forward for the future. And I think we're going to be surprised how much it enables and makes it better, as opposed to just the doom and gloom.
That is absolutely spot on with the message of this show. It is about getting that advantage and making use of it. One question I would like to ask you, though, is you talked about different, you had people of color, people of, different demographics. There's another demographic as well, which is, the older generation, mm-hmm. who traditionally shun new technology or seem afraid of it. I was certainly the young kid who would come in and work on computers, and, everybody was scared, and it seems like a black art to people on the outside. Mm-hmm. Whereas AI, for me, there's that paradigm shift of, hold on, you're not doing that black art anymore. You're telling the AI what you want to create. And then it goes and does the hard yards, which I think is a huge change in approach. How would you get the message across to every level of society to use this? Because as I say, I like to say to people, don't be afraid of it. You can use this to do things that you wouldn't believe you can do, and it's easy. So what would you do?
That's exactly what I would say. It can be easy. You need, I know new stuff can be daunting, but we can't be complacent. We just can't. Sorry, that's just the way that it is. We need to roll with the punches. We need to evolve with the times. And so, I know it's tough. I spend hours every day studying every new little AI that's come out, and spend a lot of time learning. That's just the place that we're at right now historically. So yeah, don't feel nervous. Don't feel shy. You can do it. You should look at it positively. You should go and try out ChatGPT. It's not that tough. Talk with it. You should try out Midjourney. It's not that tough. Talk with it. And you should see what these technologies can do.
No, completely. But don't rely on them. I think that's the message that I like to give people. Make sure that while these things can shorten the process, it still needs that little bit of fine tuning, that polish from you.
Yeah, I mean, it's the new pen. It's the new calculator. The pen didn't shut down writing. Calculator didn't shut down math. People still do math. They still do writing. It's just the new technology that does a little bit more for you. Humans are competitive. We're pretty smart. We're pretty good. We're pretty smart. We're going to hang in there. We are going to work alongside of our AIs. And yeah, they might be better at us in some things, but they're going to be not better at us in other things. And there's still going to be room for us. So what there's not room for is people who are going to be sticking the muds. And what there's not room for is people who are just going to complain about it. Again, I know it's going to be tough. Everyone out there who might have job turbulence because of this has my empathy. They have my compassion, but at the end of the day, if you put them again behind your veil of ignorance, your John Rawlsian veil of ignorance that Richard very intelligently mentioned earlier, and you don't know who you are in society, and you ask them, do you want to go back to the horse and buggy, or do you want to stick with the car? They're going to stick with the car, right? No one is going to, in their right mind, behind the veil of ignorance, is going to go back to the horse and buggy. Everybody wants the car. Ignore, that's an imperfect example. Ignore the climate change problems with the car. Like, do you want to go back to living outside in tents, or do you like your houses? Oh, I think we like houses. Thank you. So that's just the move of technology. That's just the way that it is. So I would get with the program now, because there's so much money to be made. This is not fake hype. Crypto was 80% hype, 20% real. Meta was 90% hype, 10% real. AI is 80% real, maybe 20% hype. Get with it now, and I guarantee you, your life will be positively impacted by this, possibly incredibly lucratively. So get with it now.
And it sounds like you've almost just answered the question I always like to ask people. What's that one piece of advice? If there's one thing that people take away from this conversation today, what should it be? That's
it. Get with AI now. Don't be shy. Do a little bit of research on it. Find out what's new coming out. Now, the economic ones out there, be very careful. With every new technology comes a little bit of danger. So let me help some people right now. Given that I've already said get with AI, let me go a little further. I've noticed a lot on my social media lately, people saying, ChatGPT, give me the best stock advice. And ChatGPT told me what crypto to buy. And ChatGPT told me how to fix my whatever it is, my bunions or whatever it is. Do not use ChatGPT for these reasons. Do not ask it what stock to buy. Do not ask it what crypto to buy, okay? It is generalist information from 2 years ago. It's 2 years old, okay? So don't ask it what stock to buy. It has no magical knowledge there. Don't ask it what crypto to buy. But there are other economic AIs that are coming out that are fed with up-to-date information. I'm not a financial advisor. I can't give financial advice. I've never personally used them. But if you want to look into finances, that's where you should be looking into. Do not use ChatGPT to do your own surgery at home. Do not use ChatGPT to know what stock to buy. It doesn't know. Do not ask it what crypto to buy. It doesn't know those kinds of things. Be smart, be careful, but be curious and be positive and be optimistic, because I guarantee you an AI is a shiny future, both in the short, middle is going to be rocky, and in the long term.
Fantastic. Josh, thank you for an amazing conversation today. Where can people find you? And I'm sure Cassandra is going to be the project that you want people to know about.
Yeah. So again, Cassandra, so myself, Wray AI. I'm looking right now for investors. My company has already been valued by venture capitalists at $1 million US. I'm looking for a chief technology officer. I'm looking for a tech partner that can help me build the next AGI. My prototype is very close. I just need someone to help push me over the edge with servers and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. If anybody out there knows anybody who knows anything about tech, I have got equity to spare. Contact me at joshbachynski@gmail.com. That's JOSH, B as in Bob, ACHY as in YouTube, N as in Nancy, SKI@gmail.com. If you want to learn more about my philosophy, more about my AI work, and the other things that I do, follow me at Twitter, at Josh Bachynski, same spelling, and you should be able to find me there.
Thank you for that, Josh.
Well, thank you, Richard. It's been a pleasure.
Well, that's a wrap on another awesome guest episode for the Evolvepreneur AI Advantage Show. Just before you go, if you like this episode, we would be very grateful for a 5-star review. Please also consider recommending the show to a friend or two. Make sure you subscribe for future episodes at aiadvantage.show right now. Until next time, I'm Richard Wray, and if you're an entrepreneur, get the AI advantage today.